Hey everybody, welcome to Galactic Wisdom. I hope you're all having a good week. I hope it's not too cold or too hot wherever you are. I know we've got fires burning on one side of the US and freezing winter storms down in other areas. Um, so today I'm going to look at the subject of proof. Now, as a scientist, as a space scientist myself, I understand that proving things is quite important. Proving things is really what separates uh, beliefs from knowledge. If I can throw up a little illustration here, if you have proof of something and you accept it as being true, then what you get from that is knowledge. If you don't have proof of something and yet you still accept it as being true or real, then what you get out of that is a belief. Beliefs are things that we accept as being true without proof. They require a leap of faith. Now, I'm going to talk about today, how do we prove things? How do we prove things so that we can get knowledge instead of beliefs? One example of where this might be important is in the recent disclosures that have been happening with respect to UFOs or UAPs. We've had a couple of people come out in the last week or two with new information and actually one video of what is supposed to be, what is claimed to be a UFO, a UAP, an alien tech vehicle that looks a little bit like a white egg being hauled underneath a helicopter from one place to another place. When we look at that video, is that proof? Is that enough to give us knowledge? Is the account that that Jake Barber gave when he was talking about working on recovering crashes of alien craft, is his verbal account, is that proof? This is the kind of question that I'm going to ask today. And I'm going to work through it in kind of a logical, almost lecture kind of way today. So there's a difference, first of all, we need to understand between evidence and proof. In order to prove something, evidence is needed. Now, many people think that evidence is proof. Many people will ask, is there evidence for something? If they see evidence for something, in their mind, it's proved. But that's not the right use of that word. Evidence is anything that either supports or contradicts a hypothesis, a theory, or a guess. Evidence can be what you personally have seen or heard or perceived or witnessed. And that can be in direct conversation, in books, in posts, in articles, in talks, in videos, in reports that you've read, in emails you've received, texts, chats. Evidence can come in a wide variety of different forms. Evidence can be what other people claim to have seen, heard, perceived, or witnessed. Evidence can also be what cameras or mics or other technological sensing devices appear to have detected or recorded. Now, evidence can be any of those things that are put forwards. That doesn't mean that any of them are true. It doesn't mean that any of them are genuine. All of the evidence could have been fabricated. Evidence, the word evidence, doesn't yet have any conclusions about its validity, about whether or not it constitutes proof. So whether the evidence is real, true, or correct or not, it can still be called evidence. Some evidence can at times be sufficiently strong to prove or disprove a hypothesis. However, a lot of evidence isn't strong enough. Now, we live in a world today where people will just accept pretty much anything as being true without proof. People will believe in pretty much anything. And when you listen to what people say and post and comment on in social media, I'm sure you've noticed that a lot of the things that people believe and say are completely nonsensical. Um, w- why is it? Why is it that people have such a hard time determining what is real and true and what isn't? Well, throughout our history on this planet, approximately 300,000 years of existence on this planet, we haven't really needed to prove anything uh, beyond what we can see in front of us. Is that object over there? Is that something that we can burn? Is it not something we can burn? We can pick up a branch, we can throw it on the fire, we can pick up a rock, we can throw it on the fire, and straight away we've got all the evidence we need to make simple conclusions. Um, we we haven't really Our survival hasn't really depended on us answering the big questions in the universe that people today have beliefs about. Um, so, but now we live in a world in which we have huge amounts of evidence thrown at us, and we're not so good at processing that. It's not directly related to our survival, a lot of it. And we're just not very good. Our brains have not quite advanced enough to be able to figure out, is this true? Is this not true? So I'm going to today talk to you about the simplest way, the simplest, easiest way that we can prove something to be true. And this is called direct proof. Now, there's many different types of proof. One type of proof is you can just see something and then it's proved. I've seen this, it's a mug. I know it's a mug because I know what a mug is in my mind and I'm seeing it here. I've got direct proof. But some evidence requires a bit of thinking about. For example, the afterlife. If we delve into this enough, if we gather in a lot of evidence about what people experience when they're close to death, what people experience when they die and then they are brought back or they come back to life, then we have more evidence that's less obvious, less tangible than a mug that's in front of us. And then it requires more thinking, more thought about, well, what can we deduce from that? And sometimes the evidence is so complicated that we don't have enough evidence to prove anything. In those situations, we're then left with a choice. Do we accept something as being true based on faith, based on our beliefs, or do we just simply accept that, well, we don't yet have enough knowledge to know the answer to this? I'm going to talk about sort of an in-between where a little bit of thought is required, but not too much. And I'm going to start off by putting a story to you. And I'm going to ask you to think about this story, and I'm going to ask you to think about, what do you think the message in this story is? There's a young lady, she's called Mary, and she goes to a park. And in this park, there's a beautiful large lake. And Mary is walking around the lake and she looks out into the lake and she sees in the middle of the lake a swan. And it's a beautiful swan. She's never seen a swan on this lake before. She looks out, she sees this swan, she sees its white curving neck and its majestic contours with large wings tucked up beside it. And she takes out her camera and she starts taking photos of it. And this group of 10 people walk past her, see that she's taking photos of something that she's obviously very interested in, and they ask her, what are you looking at over there? And she says, look at that, there's a beautiful swan in the middle of the lake. And one of them looks out there and says, I can't see a swan. And the other one says, I can't see a swan either. And then the third person points into the middle and says, are you talking about that tiger? And Mary says, what? Tiger? No, there's a swan right there. And one by one, each of the people in this group look at Mary like she's kind of crazy. And they all tell her, well, we can't see a swan out there, but we can see a tiger. So maybe you're mistaking that thing that you think that is a tiger for a swan. Now, what is what is the message in that story? Is the message that when something you think is real, when lots of people tell you it's not real, if enough people tell you it's not real, does that mean you should reconsider what you think is real, what your beliefs or knowledge are? Or is the message that you should believe what your eyes are telling you, and what your eyes and your senses are telling you are more important than what 10 other people are telling you they're seeing? Well, that's what we're going to look at today, and hopefully by the end of this show, you will know my opinion on it, and maybe you'll have some clarity about your opinion too. The easiest way for anybody to prove something to be true, and therefore know something to be true, is if you yourself personally, directly, firsthand see, hear, or witness it. If you can see something, if you can hear something, witness something for yourself, then that's as big a proof as you can ever get. You can't get a level of proof stronger than that. If an alien craft comes down and lands in front of you and you see it, and you're not on drugs or drunk or really tired or in some kind of a meditative state, you can know that that is true to a level that is higher than any other knowledge you can acquire. Because if anybody else tells you anything that they have seen, that they have witnessed, that they have proved, that was not through your eyes. And in fact, them telling you is through your eyes. So that certainly cannot be a greater proof than what you have seen with your own eyes somewhere else. Direct proof is powerful because it's based on evidence that you yourself witness. And direct proof is quite easy because it doesn't require any specialized knowledge. It doesn't require any complicated logical deductions. It doesn't require any science. It doesn't require any mathematics. You know, a lot of the things that scientists prove do require specialized knowledge. They require mathematics. But if you see something yourself, you can know it to be true. Now, you've got to be a bit careful that you don't make deductions about what you've seen. If, for example, an alien lands, you see that alien, okay, you've seen, what have you seen? You've seen let's say, a short being with a large head with large almond-shaped eyes, and maybe it's, I don't know, glowing brightly, a bit like it's got an aura. If that's what you see, then that raw evidence, that raw perception, that's what you can prove, nothing else. You can't prove that you've just seen an extraterrestrial. It might not be. You can't prove that you've just seen a demon or an angel, or, people will interpret the same experience in lots of different ways. You've probably heard of the expression, seeing is believing. Well, direct proof is wiser than that. Direct proof is more like seeing is knowing. It could well be that the people watching this show have seen or experienced things in their lives that maybe typically would be unexplainable, supernatural, paranormal, alien phenomena. And you don't have the ability to be able to prove it to anybody else. They weren't there. You didn't take photos and videos. But that doesn't mean it wasn't real, and that doesn't mean that it wasn't proved to you. So how can we directly prove something? To directly prove something, there's a few criteria that we need to try and cover or meet in order for something to meet the standard of direct proof. The first thing is you yourself personally, directly, and firsthand saw, heard, or witnessed the evidence, whatever the thing is. That's very powerful. But the second criteria is so it only works, it's only proof if you were unimpaired when you saw, heard, or witnessed it. That being unimpaired is important. You weren't on drugs, very tired. You don't have a mental illness which impairs your sense of reality sometimes. You weren't drunk at the time. Also, the third criteria is that you were fully conscious. It's kind of obvious, but some people, when they meditate or when they go into hypnosis, they will see and they will perceive things. They're in an altered state of consciousness. And when you're in an altered state of consciousness and you perceive something, it doesn't mean that it's not true. It doesn't mean it's not real. If you're meditating and you see an alien come to you or some other being come to you, it could be true, but you can't treat that perception with the same level of certainty of reality as when you see something with your own eyes, your own five senses that you normally, typically will prove things with. So you need to be fully conscious. It's not possible that you imagined it. Could you have imagined it? Maybe you saw it really quickly. Maybe you were driving a car and suddenly there was a flash, there was a blur, and what was that? And you're not sure. Is it possible you imagined it? You have to address that criteria. Is it possible that this thing that you saw was not real, true, or correct? If there's a possible other explanation for what you perceived, like you were driving your car, you saw something bright outside fly past you, but then you realize, well, hang on, could that have been an internal reflection on your windscreen from maybe a headlamp or a street lamp or something that passed you by? So is it possible that it wasn't real in the way you perceived it to be real? And also, if you're remembering this from the past, is it possible that you're remembering it incorrectly? Now, I've got here, it looks like it's probably, that text is large enough for people to read, which is good. This is a summary of the six things, the six criteria that are needed for something to be proved directly to you. You, yourself, personally, directly, and firsthand saw, heard, or witnessed the evidence yourself. You were unimpaired when you saw, heard, or witnessed it. You were fully conscious. It's not possible that you imagined it. It's not possible that it wasn't real, true, or correct. It's not possible that you're remembering it incorrectly. And what I've done is I've highlighted a letter in each of those criteria. Y, U, C, I, R, and R. And you could remember these six criteria with the acronym USER. You've got to say that with an American accent because there's two R's at the end, USER. So that is just a little explanation for how you can prove something directly. If those criteria are met for something that you witnessed, then the thing that you witnessed, the thing that I'm calling evidence, has been directly proved to you. But it hasn't been proved to other people, and only what you witnessed has been proved. Your beliefs, your guesses, your interpretations, your theories, your assumptions, your judgments about what you have witnessed have not been proved. When was it? 2 days ago, I hosted an event where it was an online event. We had about 40 people where we meditated. I led people through a meditation, an astral projection to a time and a place in the past where there was a really significant UFO or UAP sighting. And we had some very capable psychics who came in and helped us with that remote viewing. And the perceptions that people had during that session were quite profound. We connected with the alien beings who were on board that craft, and people's perceptions were being confirmed. Different people were seeing the same thing. And one of the people who was present at the real event they were able to confirm some of the details. But we had one person whom, when I asked them what did they perceive, rather than saying, "This is what I saw," they spent 2 or 3 minutes talking about beliefs that they have that they felt were required in order to interpret what they perceived. And they had a range of different beliefs, and I'm not gonna go into all of the beliefs they had, but there was a lot of sort of previous life stuff, reincarnation stuff, a lot of stuff which is belief-based, and the philosophies, sort of almost the religious or spiritual philosophies that go along with those beliefs, before they then started saying, "This is what I perceived." And, this person, I don't wanna criticize this person too much because, they're a good person, a good, solid, nice, kind person who was there, to spread peace, love, and happiness to around the universe. So I don't wanna put this person down. Um, but what they did was intellectually invalid in that they started interpreting their perceptions based on beliefs that are not substantiated in direct proof. And this changed the whole perception. This changed the whole delivery of the information that they gave. And the information that they gave, they focused it so much in a certain direction that I just felt that no, that's not right. That's not the correct conclusion or interpretation of the evidence. So I encourage people to really understand that there is a difference between knowing something because you perceived it yourself, and then one's interpretations that follow on from that. I interview a lot of people about their experiences. A lot of people come to me and say, "Hey, Rupert, this thing happened to me." It might be alien related, it might be Sasquatch related, it might be spirit related, anything paranormal related, sometimes even reality, like scientific reality related. And when they give that information to me, when I ask for the evidence, when I ask them to tell me what's going on, it's very hard, I've discovered, for people to not put their interpretations and their beliefs into their experiences. So I have to try very hard to say to them, "Hey, listen, don't tell me what you think it meant. Don't tell me who you think it was. Just tell me what you saw. Just tell me what you heard. Just tell me what you felt." And we'll leave out the beliefs completely from the story. After they've given the story, then why not tell me what you think it means? But I take that with a grain of salt. It's something that human beings often get wrong, is the interpretations, the conclusions, the judgments that follow an experience. So, let's see. I'm going to go through one or two examples in order to assist everybody in understanding what I'm saying. First of all, let's come back to the story that I told about Mary, who saw a swan, and then 10 other people said, "No, you're not seeing a swan, you're seeing a tiger." What is the message behind that story? The message behind that story is not that if enough people tell you that what they're perceiving as reality is different from what you're perceiving as reality, the message is not that you should question what you're seeing with your own eyes and your own ears. Unless in other areas of your life, you're obviously having some kind of a mental break. You need to meet those 6 criteria of USEER. But if you meet those 6 criteria of USEER, know that your own perceptions are more reliable than anything that anybody else tells you. There have been times on this planet when one or two people, one or two very clever or very perceptive, very intelligent people have figured stuff out about reality. And what they have figured out about reality has been correct when the rest of the human population is still getting it wrong. And they were right, and other people were wrong. And in our world today, you've probably experienced seeing a lot of people whose beliefs are contrary to yours, their beliefs contrary to your knowledge. And maybe you're pulling your hair out thinking, I just don't get it. I don't get how I can prove to these people what I know to be true, and they're all getting it wrong. I experience that a lot on a daily basis when I look at what people are posting and commenting on social media and all of the things that they're getting wrong. And people have been doing that throughout history. So the moral of that message, the moral of that story, the message behind that story is, if you're seeing something yourself, then that is what has power. If you, with your own eyes and your own ears, are experiencing something, let's say you've got a friend who is, I don't know, always very, very nice to you, and you've known them for 10 years, and all they ever say is kind, nice, generous, thoughtful things, and you have a group of 10 people come along, and they perform some kind of a character assassination on that friend of yours, and they start telling you, no, this person committed robberies, and in their past they were a serial killer, and they've done this and they've done that. Doesn't matter if 10 people, if 100 people are saying that they've had bad experiences with that person. If you haven't, just understand that your direct proof of the reality of the character of that person means more than 100 eyewitness accounts that saw something or claimed to have seen something that you didn't. Your reality should be based on your perceptions, not on the perceptions of others. Never put the perceptions of others ahead of your own perceptions. Here's another example. One night when you're walking outside, you see a large UFO land in front of you. You're not impaired in any way by alcohol, drugs, tiredness, or mental illness. There's a question for you. See if you can think of the answer in your head. I'm not going to go hunting around through the comments. Has it been proved to you that you saw a UFO? I'll say that again. One night while you're walking outside, you see a large UFO land in front of you. You're not impaired in any way by alcohol, drugs, tiredness, or mental illness. But you don't have cameras on you. You're not taking scientific readings, but you see a UFO. Has it been proved to you that you saw a UFO? If you use USEER, you yourself, personally, directly, and firsthand saw, heard, or witnessed the evidence, yes, it's been proved to you. It has been proved to you that you saw a UFO. Now, whether or not that was an extraterrestrial UFO or an industrial military complex UFO, that's an interpretation. That has not been proved to you. Here's another question. Do you know that you saw a UFO, or do you just believe it? Well, if it's been proved to you, you know it. That's what proof does. It changes belief or guess or hypotheses into knowledge. 3, you tell your friend that an extraterrestrial craft landed close to you. Is what you told her correct? Well, as I said, it might be, but that's not something that you know. You didn't get proof that the UFO was extraterrestrial. You didn't witness it coming from another planet. You've made an incorrect assumption or deduction. Your statement was invalid. It was misleading information. It was misinformation. Another question. After what you told your friend, does your friend know? Does your friend know that you saw a UFO? Well, no, it hasn't been proved to her. If she were to do the you-see-er test, she would fail at point A because she personally didn't witness the UFO. Now, I know some people out there, when you're trying to convince somebody of something and they're not believing you, they're not accepting it as being true, it can be quite frustrating. But think of it from their perspective. If they haven't witnessed it themselves, then it can't be proved to them, because all they've got to go on is the account, the verbal account of another person. And that is not ever proof of anything. The only thing that a verbal account is proof of is that there is a verbal account. It doesn't prove that what is said in that verbal account is true or real. Another example, a few days later, your friend tells you that she saw a UFO in the sky. On her phone, she shows you a picture that she says she took of the UFO. Here's a question for you. Has it been proved to you that your friend has on her phone a photo that appears to show a UFO in it? Yeah. You personally saw the photo firsthand. It has been directly proved to you that your friend has on her phone a photo that appears to show a UFO. But has it been proved to you that your friend saw a UFO even when she shows you a photo? No, because you didn't directly witness your friend seeing a UFO. The you-see-er test doesn't pass at that point. You don't pass that test at the first point. Now, it is possible that your friend was in some way impaired. Now, I know we like to trust our friends. We like to think of our friends as being reliable, but you don't know. It is possible. Is it possible that your friend was in some way impaired? Yes, it's possible. It's possible somebody else spiked her drink and, was impaired in some way. Is it possible that she created the photo using AI or photo editing software? Yes, it's possible. If there is another possible explanation for something, then you haven't yet proved it to be true. Proving things is not easy. That's why so many people have beliefs. Is it possible that she got the photo from somewhere else? Yes, that's possible. You don't know that your friend saw a UFO, and trusting her might be like a friendly thing to do, but it's not an intellectually valid thing to do. So, in the two examples that I've mentioned, where you saw a UFO, where your friend claims to have seen a UFO, does this mean that there's no way for you or your friend to prove to each other that what you both claim to have witnessed was real? Well, if you didn't take any photos or videos of the UFO that you saw, and no one else did, then it's probably not going to be possible for you to prove your experience to anyone with direct proof or with indirect proof. Unfortunately, it is part of the nature of our reality that it's impossible to prove a lot of things. There are a lot of things that we're never going to know the answer to, almost certainly. I would like to know what happened before the Big Bang, if there was a before the Big Bang. Now, as a space scientist, I can tell you there doesn't need to have been a before. We know that time is intricately interwoven into the fabric of space itself in ways that when you travel close to gravitational objects, time can change, can run at different rates. When you travel close to the speed of light, time can run at different rates. When you go all the way back to the Big Bang, to the start of the universe, it's possible, it's probable that time began at that moment. But I can see that it is possible that there was a before the Big Bang, that the Big Bang happened in in a previous time, maybe in another universe, it's possible. But the Big Bang was an incredibly violent occurrence. It was all of the energy in the universe pushed down, squeezed into a very small space with such ferocity that, well, if you would try to send a radio signal through that, it would not go. Photons could not travel through that opaque medium. We know that nothing could travel through that opaque medium until it expanded enough, after about 300,000 years, I think it was, where it had expanded enough that the density became low enough that photons of light could then start propagating through the universe. And we can see those first photons of light today in the form of the microwave background radiation, but we can't see back any further. If somebody who had have existed in a time before the Big Bang had have wanted to pass a note to us in this universe, they write out the letter, they try and put it through the Big Bang, it gets burned. There is no way for information to pass through that event of any kind. So we're probably never going to know the answer to that. We can't always get proof and knowledge to every single question. Now, I do sometimes try things like astrally project to the start of the universe, to the end of the universe. You've got to be a bit careful. Do you really want to take your spiritual consciousness into that, the ferocity of the Big Bang? Maybe you'll get burned. You've got to be a bit careful. I have at times led astral projections into places where people have started to feel uncomfortable. Beings have started to push us away. Once, when I astrally projected into to a location where some of my ancestors are buried, because I had a family tree, ancestral genealogy question for them, for the spirits who died there. We tried astrally projecting to the spirits to communicate with them, and what people felt was like, people described it as being almost like a spiritual point or dagger being pushed towards us, not in a violent way, but no, you're not, you shouldn't be here, keep out. It's like trying to push your way through a thorn bush. We were not able to. We have once or twice experienced advanced non-human entities that when we try to move to them, to communicate with them, we've started to feel increasingly uncomfortable, and it's like, no, they don't want to talk to us. When I was investigating an implant that was put into a young lady whose grandfather worked in Area 51, and that implant, it was cut open by a surgeon, and out of the implant came over 20 thumbnail-sized fetuses. When we tried astrally projecting to the alien beings that were associated with that implant, they did not want to talk to us, and they pushed us away, and they made some people feel a little bit ill when we tried to talk to them. So, I'm kind of going off on tangents here, but we can't always get all the information that we would like. And that's just part of reality. So if living in harmony with the universe is important to you, then being emotionally okay with knowing that you don't know some of the things in the universe is valuable. I know that a lot of people out there feel like the ultimate end point is to know the things they want to know the big answers to the big questions in the universe. But I guarantee you're never going to know all of those answers. We could live on this planet for another 100,000 years, and we probably would not know the answers to every single question in the universe. So setting ourselves the target of gaining all of that knowledge is not something that I recommend, because it's very unfulfilling, leading your life, never being able to achieve your goals. But I tell you that what you can do is achieve your goals every second of every day if you choose a goal of being, as much as is practically possible, as kind and loving and caring and considerate, as non-harmful, as non-violent as you can towards others. That's something you can achieve right now. But that's something I talk about in my other podcasts. It might be possible for your friend to prove to you that her experience was real if she can prove to you that the photograph that she took of the UFO is real or unedited or genuine. I have had people come to me and send me photographs that when I look at them, I think, oh, that might be a real alien craft that you've recorded there, or a real spirit that you've recorded there. But if they've just sent it to me, it could be AI, it could be Photoshop, or it could just be a refraction in a camera lens. In order to prove some of these photos to be true, sometimes I have driven for 3 or 4 hours to their homes and asked to see the photo on their camera in the memory stick with all of the information still there, or on their camera phone in order with all the camera information still there, clearly unedited. You can prove digital photos to be true that way. You can prove older photos to be true if you can see the negatives, or if you can see the original sometimes. There are different ways of proving things to be true. But in order to prove those pieces of evidence to be true, like the camera negatives or the file on a photograph, you need to directly prove it. We come back to you in person, yourself, this you-seer thing. You yourself personally, directly and firsthand saw, heard or witnessed the evidence. If you yourself personally, directly, firsthand saw, heard or witnessed the negative of a photo, and it matches up and it's genuine, and you've got the other negatives all in a line there, and it's still in the same envelope from 50 years ago, with the details of the chemist or whoever, the photography lab that developed it. If you can prove it yourself, then you've proved that piece of evidence to be true. And then maybe that piece of evidence is enough to indirectly prove that your friend saw a UFO. So we then have a chain of evidence and a chain of proof. And that's a really, really important thing. Now, when you were at school, science lessons, you might have remembered seeing something like this. This is a food chain. The top one there, the top image there, is a food chain. It shows a photosynthetic organism at the start, some kind of producer, could be a plant or an algae or something like that. And the energy from that is passing into the food. The energy from that is passing into some kind of shrimp-like thing when the shrimp-like thing eats it. And then the small fish is eating that, and the food passes along, and bigger and bigger and bigger fish. You get a food chain. In a similar way to that, food chains in science show how the nutrients and energy pass from one organism to another when they eat each other. Proof chains show how proof can pass or spread from one piece of evidence to another. Evidence piece 1 to evidence 2 to evidence 3 to evidence 4. If you can prove that evidence 1 is true, then you might be able to prove that 2, 3, and 4 are also true. But you can't prove any of them as being true or real unless you, at some stage, at one of those stages, can prove things directly. You yourself seeing something. You yourself seeing something in a way that you can absolutely 100% know it to be true or real. This is why direct proof is so important. So I've got another example here, and I might have enough time to talk about that, but I just want to maybe step aside for a minute and give 1 or 2 conclusory comments in case I don't have time when I've finished going through this example. So many people accept things as being true because they've heard that somebody else has proved it. People send me links to pseudo-scientific articles where it says something like, scientists have proved that plants talk to each other. And because in the article it says, scientists have proved that plants talk to each other, this person who's read the article has been convinced that plants talk to each other. Whether or not that's true, she has accepted something as being true based on what somebody else has said. She can read about the experiments that these scientists have done, but she hasn't done those experiments herself. She doesn't know if those experiments were real proof that plants talk to each other. I see all around me every day, almost everybody believing hundreds of things that have never been proved to them. Now, if you accept something as being true without proof, that's a belief. If you accept something as being true because you hear scientists have proved it, it's still a belief if you accept that as being true because you haven't looked at the data. You weren't there. You're reading an article or a paper that could have been forged. Is there, if we look at USEA here, is it possible that it wasn't real, true, or correct? Yes. If you're reading an article that somebody has written, it's possible that it wasn't true, real, or correct. People trust too much. They believe too much. The reality, this is an intellectual reality that most people on this planet don't get. If you're going to accept anything as being true, anything that anybody else says, anything that anybody else claims to have proved, whether it's one person or 100 people or 1,000,000 people, if you're accepting what they're saying as being true, whether they're saying it verbally, in a scientific paper, on a YouTube video, on TikTok, if it's in a book, even if it's in an old book, if you're accepting anything that anybody else is saying as being true without direct proof, without you personally witnessing it yourself, then it's not proved to you. It's not knowledge to you. And you're making an intellectual mistake. It's an intellectual error to accept it as being true. Now, this is tough because a lot of people are going to react to that with, whoa, well, how can I tell if anything in my reality is real? And yes, that's the right question to be asking, because so much of what people accept as being true in our world is complete nonsense. That's the big message here. So I'm going to encourage people to go away and think about this, and it's okay if you disagree with me, but I suspect that if you really think about what I'm saying, you will realize that the truth is clear. You don't know anything unless it's been proved to you personally. Whatever it is that somebody is saying about anything, you don't know if what they're saying is true or real or correct, even if it's 100 people. I think it was Marcus Aurelius one time said that the opinion of 10,000 men is worth nothing if none of them know anything about the subject. And right now on this planet, there's a lot of people who act like they know stuff that they really don't. So let's see, I have about 3 minutes left. Let me talk briefly about the Jake Barber's disclosure, his testimony. He had a very strong testimony. about as strong as you can get for a human being talking. He seemed convincing. He genuinely seemed like he wasn't acting. For those of you that don't know, Jake Barber claimed a few days ago that he used to fly a helicopter that recovered crashed UFOs. And when he described an experience that he had where he was retrieving an eight-sided or a UFO, a disc-shaped UFO with 8 sections on it. He called it an eight-gon, which stands for an eight-sided polygon. When he was describing that experience, he felt such amazing love and joy and music and song and beauty and harmony within his soul that he was emotional there in the interview. He was crying. It seemed to me like probably he really did experience that. It seemed to me like he probably was telling the truth, but I don't know because I wasn't there. I know that his claim is true because I witnessed it firsthand, but I don't know that his experiences were true. They're not proved. In order to prove anything, in order to accept anything as being true, we have to get firsthand proof ourselves. Now, I've been fortunate enough that I've gone out and I have communicated telepathically, like Jake was talking about, having psionic assets or telepathic people in our group. We go out there, we reach out to the beings, we invite them to come in and communicate with us, and we've had craft come in. I've even videoed some of them. So I've been fortunate enough to get direct proof of the things that I'm talking about. That's why I can talk about some of these things with knowledge instead of belief. If you want to get that same knowledge, that same belief, then you need to experience these things yourselves. If you would like to experience some of these things yourselves, then this is where you can go. You can join my group. There's a free membership option there if that's important to you. And in that group, you can occasionally have, usually on a weekly basis, I give you opportunities for people to have experiences like the ones I'm describing. I invite you to join me. I have in 2 hours on that website, in 2 hours, I'm going to be communicating with our Galactic Council friends. Feel free to join me there if you would like. I would like to wish everybody a warm and safe and free from fires, free from natural disasters, rest of your weeks. And I wish you all peace, love, and happiness. Take care. Goodbye for now.